Good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's hearing. We're going to hear more evidence today from those who were present in the tower at the time of the fire. Yes, Mr. Rowett.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, can I thank you for the additional time you allowed us this morning just to sort out some matters? And can I now please call Natasha Elcock?
Yes, thank you.
I swear by Almighty God.
I swear by Almighty God.
That the evidence I shall give.
That the evidence I shall give.
Shall be the truth.
Shall be the truth.
The whole truth.
The whole truth.
And nothing but the truth.
And nothing but the truth. So, thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Alcock. Sit down and make yourself comfortable.
Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Rowett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning.
Hi, Bilal.
Can you give the inquiry your full name, please?
Natasha Elcock.
Ms. Elcock, thank you very much for coming to give evidence today. The help that you're continuing to give to this inquiry is very much appreciated. As you'll be aware, most of my questions today are going to focus on the night of the fire itself. And in fairness to you, we should make clear that you limited your statement to this inquiry thus far to phase 1 issues. So I'm not going to be asking you about phase 2 issues, such as your dealings with the TMO. But that said, we all appreciate that asking any witness to relive the events of the night of the fire is a difficult task. And it's important, therefore, that you take your time. And if at any time you need a break, just let me know and we'll stop. I'm trying, as I hope I will do, to keep my questions short and simple. But if I do ask you a question that you don't understand, please just tell me and I'll ask the question in a different way. The first thing that we need to do is to formally put the statements that you've made to the inquiry into the record. And if I may, first of all, have on the screen IWS 50310, page 1, please. And just to help you, Ms. Elcock, that's the first page of your first statement to the inquiry. I think you know, because you have attended in the past, how it all works, but it'll be, as we go through your statement, it'll come up on the screen in front of you. If you prefer hard copies, there's a bundle there on the table. If we go then to page 8, the last part of that page, there's a statement of truth. It's dated the 15th of May 2018 and it carries a signature. Can you confirm that that's your signature?
It is, yeah.
And have you had a chance to go through the statement recently?
Yeah.
And are the contents of this statement true?
Yes.
What I need to say and put into the record is that the statement is accompanied by 5 exhibits, which are labelled NE1 to NE5. And the reference for those is collectively IWS 50306. You've also made a supplementary statement. If we could have Ms. Elcock's supplementary statement up on the screen, page 1, please. And if we go to page 2. Previous page, please. Thank you. Again, we see at the bottom the statement of truth. It's dated the 28th of August 2018. And can you confirm that's your signature?
It is, yeah.
And are the contents of that statement true?
Yes.
That statement is also accompanied by 1 exhibit, which is labelled NE1. Before I start asking my questions, Ms. Elcock, can I start with just for the benefit of those who are present here or who may be following the hearing elsewhere, I will be showing a series of photographs to you. They're all images which have been displayed before, and although some are taken after the fire, they're not in themselves distressing. But I wanted to say this now because I do appreciate that there are others here for whom any image can be upsetting. And so when we come to that and I give the reference, they may want to just look away at that point. Can I take you then just back to the first page of your first statement, which is IWS 50310, page 1, please. And can we just begin with a few questions of background? Yep. In June 2017, you lived in flat 82 on the 11th floor of Grenfell Tower. Is that right?
That's correct, yeah.
And by that date, how long had you been living in the tower?
By that date, sorry, just trying to think, 21 years.
And in June 2017, who was living in your flat with you?
So it's myself, my partner, my 3 children.
And is it right that on the night of the fire, you were obviously at home, but with you was your partner and your youngest daughter?
That's correct, yeah.
Could we go, please, to IWS 50306-001, please? Thank you. Just a few questions, please, about your flat, the layout of the flat.
Yep.
That's a marked plan of your home. Is it right, you've marked on there your bedroom is the bedroom that would have been next door to flat 83, wouldn't it?
Yes, the one closest to the door.
And as you say, opposite the front door, yes?
Yeah.
And the second bedroom would have been the bedroom that would have been used by your children?
Yeah.
We can see that you've marked you've marked the front room and the kitchen. Can you just tell us, was there a divide between the kitchen and the front room?
Yeah, there's 4 wooden moving doors.
So you had sliding doors that you could walk through.
Sliding doors.
So if you were wanting to access your kitchen from the hallway, you could either go through a door into the kitchen directly or via the living room through the sliding doors.
Yeah, there was 2 glass, like a double door that led in from the hallway on the right-hand side, or you could go by the kitchen and round into the front room.
What we can also see on the plan is that if you look in the hallway, there are 2 sort of asterisks. Can you see those? And there's one that's just sort of in the middle of the hallway between your bedroom door and the part of passage that led to the front door.
Yep.
And then there's one which is just by the toilet. Do you see that?
Correct, yeah.
Can you tell me just what are those intended to indicate?
So I think when I was going through my statement with my solicitor, I was explaining my actions. So at certain points during my statement, I was saying, look, I went there and then I went back there.
So just your movements during the night?
Yeah.
I follow. Thank you. Maybe we can use this plan. Can you just tell us, did you have smoke alarms in your flat? And where were the smoke alarms?
So I had one on the wall in the kitchen. So as soon as you came through the kitchen, there was one directly above you. It wasn't in the ceiling because it couldn't be installed in the ceiling because of the asbestos in the ceiling. So they put it actually physically on the wall. Then there was one in the hallway. So between the bathroom and the toilet, there's a wall that you can see. Obviously it's a 3D, so you can't really see it, but there's that grey area, the dark grey area. There was one on that wall as well.
Now, I described them as smoke alarms, and you agreed that they were smoke alarms, but how did you know they were smoke alarms? Because,
as I say, they were installed probably about maybe a year before. And I remember distinctly, like, why does it need to be on the wall? And it kind of had trunking that ran from, would have been from where the electric cupboard is by the front door, kind of ran through, and it had to be installed on the actual wall itself because of them saying there was asbestos in the ceiling.
So somebody actually told you, we are putting smoke alarms into your flat?
Yeah.
And you said they had trunking, so these were not battery operated?
Yeah, I'm pretty certain they were. I mean, yeah, I'm pretty certain. But then because of some of the other stuff where I had electrical issues, where when the gas situation happened, there was also some trunk in there, so that could be quite merged a little bit. But they could have been battery operated, but I remember them saying they couldn't install it on the ceiling, it had to be on the wall. And I think the trunking may or may not be, I'm not sure.
Before June 2017, did you ever set off either of these 2 smoke alarms?
No.
So, did you know whether they were working in June 2017?
Can't say, yeah, I never really tested them, so no. And no one came to test them.
Now, presumably, you, like other residents, had new windows fitted as part of the refurbishment.
Yep.
And in your statement, I'll take you to it if you want to look at it, but I'd like to keep the map up on the screen, the plan rather. You refer to a gap between the wall and the windowsill, which was in your bedroom, and you say in your statement you'd actually raised a complaint about that. So,
after they installed the windows, before kind of Ryden left the block, I suppose, before they signed it off as such, there was a number of drafts that would come through. So where you see, so the window, where it says fire at the bottom, that first window in the front room, there was a really bad draft coming from that one.
Right. Can I pause you there for a moment? No, because I think what I'd like to do is take it in stages,
Oh, okay,
if I may.
yeah, sorry.
So, so we'll start off with your bedroom.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
So there was one in the bedroom,
right.
And
so let's start off with your bedroom.
Yeah.
So you had a problem with your bedroom window, and can you just tell us what the nature of that problem was?
So when they installed the windows, they installed new windowsills, but it had clearly been placed on the old wooden. So there was like a wooden windowsill before, and what it then did was created a gap between the actual windowsill, the wall, and then the draft would come under.
And could you, from inside your bedroom, could you actually see that gap?
Yeah, the gap was probably about centimetre and a half. Yeah, so it was quite you could get your finger, I've got slim fingers, so I could get my fingers under.
And you could feel the draft?
Yeah. And there was also a kind of draft around the ceiling, as I say, there's a wood panel, the windowsill went up over it, and you could feel like if you put your hand like that, you could feel a slight draft coming up against your hand.
And so that's your bedroom. You've got a second bedroom. Did you have a problem with the window in the second bedroom?
Personally, I didn't spend much time in there, but all of them, you could feel the draft in that gap on the wood panels.
And when you say in that gap, are you talking about the gap around the frame
the top,
rather than underneath?
Yeah.
And now we've got, if we go to the front room, you've got 2 windows that are going to face south, and then 2 windows that are facing east.
Yeah.
Taking the southern-facing windows first, did you notice any problems with those?
Yeah, so that one, the one I was about to say earlier, was that very first one, was the one that was really, really significant. And that was actually the one they came and used mastic to reseal when I made the complaint. So that was the only one that they could really do anything about. They put a bit of mastic around it, but that was, again, was on the wood bit. There was nothing they could do about the gap on the actual ledge.
So in the front room, could you feel a draft coming in from underneath?
Yeah.
And were there sort of particular times of the year when that was more prominent, or was it?
So being so high up, and even pre-refurbishment, the wind obviously swings around the building quite fast. So if it's a windy night, you would kind of hear it howling. But after the refurbishment, it was more of you didn't hear the wind as much, you just kind of felt the draft, because the windows were obviously a lot, I assume double glazed, but yeah. So they weren't as thin as the previous windows, and they weren't on metal frames. So you didn't hear it, but you could feel it more post refurb.
And you raised a complaint. You mentioned that somebody came and did something with mastic.
Yeah.
But taking you forward to June 2017, was there still a problem with drafts and gaps?
Yeah. And that was evident on the night.
I'm going to obviously go to the detail of the night in due course, but there's one of the things that you mention in your account of the night is that at some point when the fire brigade were using water on the building, water was coming into your property. And the phrase that you use, and again, if you want me to take you to the paragraph, I'll tell you, but you say it was coming through gaps in the walls. So what did you mean by gaps in the walls?
So on the right-hand south-facing window, there was a vent at the top. So there was like a little vent that you could it's like a flap you could open up. When they were shooting the water from Grenfell Walk, it was because that's as far as the water could get, basically, from Grenfell Walk, and they were shooting it up, and therefore it would come through that gap. The pressure would push that gap open, so that's how the water was coming in.
So it wasn't a sort of gap caused by workmanship. It was a part of the window that was pushed open by the force of the water.
Yeah.
Thank you. Just a few questions about front doors.
Okay.
The front door to your flat, was that also replaced at some point?
It was replaced prior to the refurbishment. I think it's around about 2012. It was replaced, yeah.
And I should have asked you this earlier. How long had you been living in flat? Oh, how long did you live? When did you move into flat 82?
I moved in there in May 1997. So yeah, it was 20 years. Sorry, I said 21 earlier, but it's actually 20 years. Sorry.
And was this a self-closing door?
Initially, it was. So when they first put them in, it was a door that it had the self-closing. It was so much so that my daughter was a baby. The youngest one was a baby at the time. I had a pushchair, and it became a bit of an obstacle course to try and get out the door because it'd actually push you out of the door with a pram or a push. Well, I had a pram, so it push you out. So yeah, it self-closed when they first put them in. Yeah.
And what then happened to the self-closing mechanism?
So it was the August bank holiday weekend, and I remember it because it was Carnival weekend, and it was going out, and it literally just dropped off its hinges, and you therefore couldn't close it back. And obviously I made a call to the TMO to say that, but obviously being bank holiday, there was not much they could do. And I remember it vividly because it was Carnival weekend.
Can you remember which year that was?
Yeah, no. I'd like to say maybe a year after, so not long after it'd been installed. So if it'd been installed early 2012, it would have been August 2012. It wasn't very much longer after it'd been installed. They were new, and nothing could be done about it that weekend because it was Carnival weekend. And then someone came out and took out the self-closing mechanism that was in it was like a chain, kind of quite heavy chain, I think it was, or pole or something, and he took it out and they never come back.
And were you there when this job was done on the door?
Yeah.
And did you know what they were removing? Did you know what the purpose of that mechanism was?
I didn't know what at the time, but once he'd taken it out, the door no longer closed by itself, so no longer knocked you out as you left.
And did the person who came to deal with the problem explain to you what he or she was doing?
So it was clearly broken, and the door needed to close back. At that point, it was you couldn't pull it shut. He took that out and said someone would be back to, I assume, replace it, but that never really materialised.
And did you ever kind of chase someone about that, or?
Not really, because I know, like, when the doors were installed, like, that was a complaint. Like, the doors are really heavy. They were quite, for people that had pushchairs or elderly, they were really, like, quite forceful when they shut back. It wasn't a slow closing mechanism or even medium. It was quite bam. That was how it pushed you out. It literally pushed you out the door. So there wasn't a follow-up as such. I can't remember following it up, to be honest.
Just describe the front door to me as it was in June 2017. I mean, did it have a letterbox in it?
It had a letterbox.
Did it have a spy hole that you could look out through?
Yeah.
And aside from the closing mechanism, so taking you forward to June 2017, you've got a front door that doesn't have a closing mechanism on it. Did you have any other issues with the door?
So not maybe a few weeks before that, I had an issue with it actually, the handle locking, and a carpenter came out maybe a couple of months before that and done something, I'm not really sure what he did, but fixed the locking mechanism.
Did you ever notice a draft coming through the door at all?
I can't say I did, no.
Could I have in the same exhibit, but just the next page in the exhibit, so page 2 of IWS 306, please? This is, I think, a plan that you've marked. I take is that your handwriting? That's
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Apologies.
No.
I would have tidied it up if I'd known it was going to be.
It's still neater than mine. So we have now your layout, the layout of your floor, and we can see marked flat 82, and also the communal area, which just to alert you, Miss Elcock, occasionally I might call it the landing or the lobby or the communal area, but we've heard from other witnesses that there was lighting in the communal area. Do you remember if the lights on your floor were always on?
Yeah.
So no matter what time of night you came back, you'd find a light on the floor. And we can see, and there's and it might be that you were illustrating a movement there, but you can see your front door, and then there's a line going to a sort of asterisk again, and that's by the door to the stairwell.
That's
isn't
correct,
it? So your flat 82, on a normal day or normal night, if you wanted to go from your front door to that stairwell door, how many steps would it take you?
8, 9, not many.
And can you just visualize it? I mean, maybe you can use the room, but the distance from your front door to that stairwell door?
From here to probably the end of the slope, maybe.
So to the end of the ramp that we've installed to for witnesses who need to use it. Did you ever use the stairs yourself?
Yeah. You would have to use the stairs when the lifts were out of order, especially on the school run in the morning. If there was only one lift, you had no chance. So, and I very rarely, I tried not to walk up them. Living there for 20 years, I've done it many, many times. But if I knew the lifts were out, I used to go round to a friend's, have a cup of tea until they were fixed. But yeah, I've used them. I mean, I've used them pretty much. I know that the layout of the stairs from the age of about 5.
You said a few moments ago you tried not to use them. Was there any reason that you avoided using the stairs?
To walk down them is always fine because you're going down. It don't take long. But to walk up them with shopping and pushchairs and children is never the most easiest things to do. More to do with, I suppose, laziness.
We've got there.
Pretending it's laziness, a lot of stairs, aren't there?
It was, yeah.
We've got the stairwell door there. Do you remember? And I'm thinking specifically of around June 2017. Do you remember if the door from the communal area into the stairwell, did that close automatically?
Yeah. Both that one and the bin chute were quite. They weren't changed, so they used to shut back on them, make a bit of a bang.
And if you compare, I mean, I know with a young child, probably the prospect of the stairs wasn't appealing. But if you had to use the stairs, you explained that the difficulty you had with your flat door when you're negotiating that with a pram. How was the stairwell door by comparison with your flat door? It
was self-closing, so it would close back, but it was not. It was a thick door. I mean, it'd been there the whole time I lived in the tower. But it would close back, but it wouldn't be like a forceful close back. It would naturally just shut back. The bin chute was probably a lot more faster than the stairwell one, but they both closed themselves straight back in once you came out of them.
And you mentioned that the lifts were sometimes out of order, and you've in fact marked on there
Yeah.
that a lift was out of service. How often were the lifts out of order?
So they were replaced back in 2005, and I think from pretty much then, yeah, they were kind of constantly, if one wasn't out, the other one was, you know, it. And then some weekends you'd just have none. There seemed to be more problems post-refurb because the contractors were using the lift, so they'd use one, they basically ultimately caused a problem where grit would get into the mechanisms and that would knock the lifts out. So they were constantly out of order.
Just taking you slightly out of sequence, but we're going to June 2017. But you've marked that the lift, so on that night, is out of service. Can you remember how long that lift had been out of service?
No, so the whole reason I've marked it out of service, and it relates to my statement, because when I woke up, and when I was awoke the second time, not the first time, as my statement says, when I was talking to my neighbours, which is why it's quite detailed in that picture, I remember looking at one of the lifts actually had the ticker tape where it says out of service. So it's quite difficult because you haven't got to that bit yet in my statement.
Would it help you if I deal with it when we get to that bit?
Yeah,
Right,
then it makes sense, yeah.
Okay. So let's move on to a different topic.
Yeah.
Next question is, were you aware of gas pipes on the 11th
Yeah.
floor landing?
Yeah.
And can you remember where those pipes ran?
So the gas pipe, because I was the flat that was affected, so the gas pipe ran from out of the stairwell. So it ran through the stairwell, it ran out of the top of the stairwell, came round number 81, which is the flat to the right of me, round the top of my flat and then into my cupboard.
In fact, let me...
Oh, sorry, yeah, so you'd have to go back to the other picture to see my cupboard, yeah.
Okay, well, can I do it this way? I'm going to try and show you a photograph which is taken by another witness. It's of a different floor, and it's taken before the fire, but it just might help you. Can we have IWS 401001 and then page 5 of that document, please?
Yeah, exactly like that.
So, just so that I can put it, just to assist those who are watching, it's a different floor. So we've got flats 111 and 112, so higher floor than yours, but we can see piping running across above that. Was that the same arrangement in your floor?
Exactly the same, and I've actually got a picture that was taken 2 days before of me standing outside the front door with gas pipes like that.
Okay. Can I move on to a different topic, please? I'm going to show now, Miss Elcock, the fire safety notice sign that we've shown before. So if just to alert those who may be following these. Can we have, please, INQ 93, please? Just to explain, you may very well be familiar with this, Miss Elcock, but it's a sign, it's a photograph of a sign that was by the lifts on the 3rd floor. And it's a photograph that's taken by one of our experts. But do you remember seeing a sign like this by the lifts on your floor?
Yes.
And was it cited? It was cited by the lifts as well, was it?
I'm pretty certain, yeah, it was on the left-hand lift, yeah. From me looking out my front door, it's on the left. And there was also one in the lobby, in the ground floor.
So the two places you remember it is lobby and ground floor?
Yeah.
Now, you'd lived in the tower for 20 years.
Yeah.
You knew people in the tower who lived on different floors, didn't you?
Yeah.
Do you remember seeing signs like that on other floors by the lifts?
Can't say, yeah.
Can you remember when, taking your floor as the example, when that sign first appeared by the lifts?
I couldn't give you an exact time scale, but it would have been sometime in the 12 months prior to the fire. It wasn't there any longer than that.
So what we've got is, you're a working mother in June 2017 and before. So what you've got is you've got a sign by the door, by the lifts, and you use the lifts to come and go when they're working. Would you have read that sign?
I would have noticed it when it went up because it wouldn't have been there before. But yeah, I would have kind of, when you're waiting for the lift, it gives you something to do.
And if we expand slightly at the top there, just under the heading of the notice, there's a line which says, there is a stay-put policy for residents unless the fire is in or affecting your flat. Before June 2017, did that phrase mean anything to you?
I'd heard it previously, not kind of from a council point of view, but just other stuff that's happened in block fires and stuff like that. So, yeah.
And aside from this notice, did you have any information from any other organisation or individual as to what you should do if there was a fire in the tower?
No.
Sticking to your floor again, we've talked about the stairwell door. Do you remember if there were any exit signs on your floor indicating what route you might need to take if there was an emergency?
No.
Is that no, I don't remember?
There was no green fire exit this way. Where I work, we have loads of them. I know you look; they need to be high and visible so that people can see them. Yeah, 110% no.
But nothing like that on your floor?
No. Other than that, no.
So, by June 2017, what was your understanding about what you, as a resident of the tower, should do if there was a fire?
I've lived there long enough to know that there have been fires that haven't, you didn't even know that they'd happen till the next morning. So there was no, how I saw it, no threat. Fires happen and generally they're brought under control pretty quick. So I never ever thought that this would be something that you'd kind of have to do.
Thank you. Can I turn now to the events of 13th and 14th of June? And can I take you, please, to... can we have side by side, please, page 2 of Miss Elcock's first statement. And particularly, if we could just expand paragraph 8. And then, that may not work for what I'm planning to do, Ralph, because what I'd like is, could we have IWS 306, page 2, the plan of layout of the floor? On the night itself, in your statement, you described that you fell asleep on the sofa that night. And then later on, you described being woken up by the sound of sirens. You then went to bed, and then you were woken up again by the sound of voices. And that's the point when you then went to your door and you saw your neighbours from flat 86. They told you that there was smoke, and you can see on the plan that you're in 82. 86 is the top flat on the plan as we see it, on the same side. But you've marked smoke with a dot. Do you see it? So was that where you saw smoke?
So yeah, I woke up, I kind of opened the door a little bit. They were standing where the dot was, and they were saying that there's smoke, and you could see like a really thin wisp of smoke in that corner. So that's why it's kind of highlighted now. This makes sense. And yeah, and then I went on to tell them, okay, go, and I closed back the door of my flat.
So taking that in stages a little bit. So you must have had to come out of your flat and walk across the lobby towards their door. Is that right?
So pretty much kind of where that asterisk is, I've kind of come out and looked I didn't come to like all the way out into the hallway. I kind of come round and had a look. You could kind of lean your head round and see. And you could see just like from the other side of the cupboard, a tiny bit of smoke. Like it was like a really light grey cigarette-y type smoke, like, but it was a little bit thicker than that. And they were standing at that corner, so number 86, the father and the daughter. But I wasn't like in a position to leave at that point, so I said to them, because I didn't really understand what they were trying to say, but I realised they said there was smoke. So I was like, okay, you guys go. And I closed back the door and shouted through to my partner to find out what was going on.
So, looking at it, would you say that you probably went as far into the hallway as the sort of area of the stairwell?
A little bit back. You could to be fair, you could come out and just go left of the door and see straight ahead.
And so on that plan, where we see the word smoke and then a dot, that's where your neighbours were.
Yeah, so they were kind of in between the cupboard, the bin chute door, and their side.
From your position, was there anything sort of affecting your visibility at all?
No.
And from where you were, could you see whether the door to flat 86 was open or not?
No. I didn't go that far to see the door.
So you couldn't see inside the flat
No,
at all?
because they were outside. They were on the landing.
Now, in your statement, you described yourself as at that point as confused. So what did you think was going on?
To be honest, as I say, I was asleep, heard the sirens, completely nothing uncommon for where Grenfell, fire brigade gets called for all sorts of reasons, so I didn't pay any attention to it. But what was really unusual for me is noises on the landing. It's a quiet landing, you don't, especially at that time of night, you wouldn't expect it. So I was more confused that they were out on the landing and there was a little bit of smoke, but I still didn't kind of put, fire brigade here. I didn't, I suppose, because I've just kind of woken back up. I was a bit confused by what was going on. So it was more about finding out what's going on when I get back in.
You told them to leave.
Yeah, because I told them to leave because they looked worried, and that's the only thing I can tell them to do. Because if you're worried, then leave. But I wasn't really. I weren't sure. As I say, it was complete confusion. I weren't sure what was going on. But it was just them saying, "Oh, smoke, smoke," and that was kind of how they were saying it to me. There wasn't no description. There's fire in my flat or anything like that. So it was more smoke, smoke, and I just said, okay. I remember looking at the lifts and one of them being out of service. That wasn't me telling them to get in the lift. I just need to add that. But it was more about because there is a little bit of context to why I would look at the lift. When I looked at the lift, it now makes sense why I looked at the lift, because, and it's quite difficult I want to try and explain what I'm talking about, but when the problem is, I know that you may come onto it at a later date, but I'm going to say it anyway. So the vent things that we had, anytime they were opened and or activated as such, the lifts would go out of order. So I think in my head, when I looked at the lift, I kind of looked to see what was going on, so that I could see one of the lifts was out of order, saying do not use or fire. I don't know what it said, but it was doing the ticker thing. And that's when I needed to establish what's going on, because clearly there's some sort of correlation, but it's not until after you think about how your thought process that night. But that's why I just said, look, okay, go, and shut back the door.
Were your neighbours trying to tell you what to do?
No.
So they were just talking. They were just saying smoke.
Yeah, literally, that was kind of the words that came out. It was just smoke, smoke.
And you told them to leave. At that time, did it come into your mind that you should be leaving as well?
So at that time, again, it was like the lights are on. they were okay. There was a tiny bit of smoke, but it wasn't like it. For me, it didn't seem like a huge. It's really difficult to describe, but I still had to go back in. My daughter's still inside. My partner's still inside. So I've still got, I could say to you, go, but I need to go back in, establish what's going on, and then work it out from there. And that's basically was my thought process.
Let's talk lifts and vents.
Yeah.
The lift is out of service.
Mm-hmm.
So that night when you got back home,
Mm-hmm.
was that lift working?
Yeah, both of them were.
So can you remember what time you got home that night?
I'd say about 8.
So and you used and so when 8 o'clock when you're getting into your flat, both lifts are working.
I'm pretty certain they were, yeah.
And tell us how you would know that a lift was out of
So
service.
they've got like digital signs which tells you where the lift's going up and down, what floor it's on now. But when it went out of service, it would say out of service. It would just keep running across out of service, out of service, out of service.
You mentioned vents.
Yeah.
I'm going to show you 2 images
Yeah.
now, which we've seen before. So can we have I think it's BLA 302513 and BLA 302514. You may well be familiar with these images, Ms. Elcock, because we've shown them to other witnesses, but they're 2 photographs taken on floor 6 after the fire, and they're views north and south. So we can see in the image on the left-hand side of the screen there are 2 vents high up on the wall,
Yep.
and on the right-hand side they are there on at the lower end of the wall. Do you is that what you're talking about when you refer to vents?
Yeah.
Now, tell us then when you say that what link you noticed between these vents and the lifts not working.
So there was a weekend when I recall coming home, and when you came in through the new doors, the new entrance to the lobby, the vents would be to your left-hand side. And there was just one weekend where they were like really, really loud. So I'm assuming that's what this was never there before. So this noise, this vent, this was a whole new system that it literally spent the whole weekend. It didn't switch off. It was really quite a warm weekend, so you had your windows open, so you could hear the kind of really loud, because it's on that side of the block. And I remember the lifts actually not working, and I think they managed to get one lift working that weekend, but it wasn't until that noise, for me, I saw it as a correlation. I don't know if it was, but for me, I saw it as that when that activated for whatever reason, and that weekend it was just because it activated, one of the lifts or 2 of both lifts would go out of service.
And when you're talking about that was hearing vents on the ground floor
lower,
lift
yeah,
lobby.
Lower, yeah. And it was really, really loud, and a whole weekend.
And can you just help us with just what year it was, and B, what time of year?
It was definitely in the summer months. So it was definitely in, I say summer months, but it weren't like autumn or winter. It was definitely summer, spring. It was a time when you had no choice but to have your windows open because it was warm, and it was a weekend of just constant whirling of this machine.
And did you hear it after the refurbishment? Was this after the refurbishment?
They weren't there before.
So, on a hot weekend after the refurbishment, that's when you hear this noise and the lifts go out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. After that, did you ever make that link again?
I can't say I did, no, but I remember this because, as I say, it was on the noise was like quite unbearable for a whole weekend. It was, yeah, and I remember the lifts having an issue. You'd call up about the lift's not working again, and then they would send someone out. And I think they fixed one of the lifts. Obviously, they couldn't fix both of them at the time, but that noise was still going until the Monday morning. And when I came home from work the Monday, it was off.
So after that occasion, do you remember ever hearing such a loud noise from that system again? No. And you've got similar vents on your floor, haven't you?
Yes, so my ones are the lower ones next to my house.
On a kind of normal day, what did you hear from, on your floor, what did you hear from those vents?
You didn't really, I don't recall hearing anything from them.
And what was the temperature like on floor 11 in the communal area?
As normal as it's ever been, so just normal.
Well, is that normal bearable or normal unbearable? Was it uncomfortable ever?
No. It's just normal hallway temperature. It wasn't as cold as the stairs. So the stairs would have a bit of a draft, but the hallways never really did.
Okay. Can I take you back to the night itself? And you've already mentioned this. Let's go back to your statement, page 2 of the first statement, please. And it's paragraphs 9 and 10, just to help you, Ms. Elcock. But what you tell us is that after the encounter with your neighbours, you go back into the flat to speak to your partner, and you both then looked out of a window facing east. Yeah, just with this, there's just a little bit that it's kind of been a bit muddled up, but yeah, I can. Just the end bit is the bit about spraying the cherry picker needs to, it kind of come a little bit after that, sorry, so I think when I gave it was a bit... Let's clear it up. You mentioned in paragraph 9 that you saw a fireman on a cherry picker, but and spraying town, but now thinking about it, do you think that occurred later on in time? So it happened after I've made the call, so it's a bit, so it would need to be at the end of 10 rather than the end of 9. It's the call that I want to ask you about, because it's your first call, and you address it in paragraph 10, and it's a call which is handled by the London Fire Brigade, and it's timed at 1:28. So leave the fireman on the cherry picker aside, but are you clear in your mind that you made that call after you and your partner had looked out of the window? Yeah. So we looked out. So I walked back to the front room and said, "What's going on?" And my partner was still watching TV. He then got up, walked to the window, which was on the east side, which overlooks the sports centre, and he went, "Oh, it looks like there's a fire." So I went and had a look as well. Could clearly see it was really low down, because it was shooting out from the bottom, but it's on the 6's side, so I'm on the 2's. It was on the 6's side. And then I naturally just picked up the phone and called the fire brigade. When you made that call, you begin by saying, I'm stuck on the 11th floor and I don't know how to get out. So what was it that made you feel as if you were stuck? On my first call, so there's, again, I think this is, so if I explain to you what happened, so we looked out for the window, I made the call, so we were looking out the window, and I remember, like, obviously there's a fire. I'm pretty certain. Is that my first call? It is. Oh, right, okay. Sorry, brain's... Do you want to see the transcript? Yeah, that'd probably be easier. Okay. Let's go, please, to LFB 50307. Ms. Elcock, if at any time you want to see the transcript, because you've dealt with them in the calls in detail in your statement, but if you do, just ask me and I will take you to the transcript. Okay. But if you look at the very top line, there's a bit called event. Yeah. And you see that there's a black square that's been put on, and next to that, if you're moving towards the left, you've got a row of numbers where the red dot is now. So that always gives us the time. So that's at 1:28, as you put in your statement. If you go to the next page, and you're the person identified as caller, and my question was directed just to what you say there about being stuck. So, because what has happened to you so far is the interaction with your neighbours on the lobby and looking out of the window. And so my question is, what was it that made you feel as if you were stuck on your floor? So obviously now reading it in its entirety, it makes a little bit more sense. So I think when I called, because I could see the fire brigade were here,
So I can see them now outside the window. I don't know whether that word stuck is more a case of I'm on this 11th floor, what do I need to do, kind of thing. That was kind of my angle now thinking back. It wasn't at this point, we haven't attempted to leave. So that's what I was just trying to clarify why, yeah. So now I've seen it in its entirety, what I said. It's more a case of we're on the 11th floor, kind of letting them know that's where we are.
So would it be fair to say that at that time you didn't feel as if you were trapped on your floor?
No, not yet, because we haven't attempted to leave yet.
If we go to the next page, please. And this is something you mention in your statement, but can you see at the top, the control room operator says, I'll let the crews know where you are, okay? Mm-hmm. Did you take anything from that?
I suppose, you know, naturally you call the fire brigade. For me, I know they're there. I'm telling you where I am. I await your instructions. That would have been my thought process at that point.
Thank you. We've been going, Mr. Chairman, for 55 minutes, I think.
Yes, I had my eye on the clock.
Yes,
So I didn't want to interrupt you.
No, well, we're moving on to another topic, so it may be a good point to ask for a break.
Yes, well, probably it's convenient to have a break at this point. Ms.
Thank
Elcock.
you.
I'm going to ask you please not to talk to anyone about your evidence while you're out of the room. And we'll come back at 11:20.
Okay.
And if you'd like to go with the usher,
Yep.
she'll look after you.
Thank you.
All right? Thank you very much. Right, 11:20 then, please. Yes, would you ask the witness to come back in, please? Thank you. All right, Ms. Elcock,
Yeah.
ready to carry on?
Yeah.
Good, thank you. Yes, Mr. Rowett?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Elcock, before we carry on with your account, I just want to go back and pick up something you said earlier. And it involves showing you a photograph from the night itself, which is one that we've shown, and it shows Nadia Jafari coming out of the lift. Mm-hmm. Are you all right seeing that image? Others here may wish to just look away. It's INQ 500426, please. Could we just expand the left-hand side of the image so we can see what's on the wall? So where we are, Ms. Elcock, is the ground floor lift lobby. And we can see that there's a poster, but next to the poster there appears to be a grill. When you were answering questions earlier before the short break, you mentioned that hot weekend when you heard a noise. Does that photograph help you at all to tell us where that noise was coming from?
It wasn't from them. It was outside the actual entrance. There's on the right-hand side there was some sort of grill thing.
So was it in the foyer area?
No, actually outside the building on the right.
I follow. I see. So outside the tower itself.
Yeah.
I follow. All right. Thank you. Well, let's go back to your account, please, and your statement at page 3. So IWS 310, page 3. Thank you. And let's expand paragraphs 11 and 12. You've dialed 999 once at 128, and in these two paragraphs, you tell us you get dressed, you see neighbours on the grass below, and you speak to your sister. And then if we pick it up at 133, in paragraph 12, you say you call the fire brigade again, and speak to them. Now, 128 and 133, if my maths is right, it's 5 minutes. So what had happened to make you call a second time?
So, as it says, I obviously got dressed, woke up my daughter. I was looking out. So we were kind of looking out to see. I've already called them, so they know that there's a fire. They've told me they're in attendance. And then I'm looking downstairs, and I actually see, as I put here, Yusuf from flat 85, and he's the one that prompted me to kind of say something, it's not right here, why is he down there? I then called my sister, just to tell her, look, we're okay, but there's a fire. As soon as we get out, I'm gonna bring my daughter to my mum's. And then at that point, I believe, when I know, when I saw Yusuf, I kind of looked, after calling my sister, I looked at my partner and I said to him, you know what, I think Yusuf was my prompt, so I kind of said, you know what, I think it's time we went, like, let's not wait. And so we went to go out, and he was in front, he opened the door, and with that it was pitch black. He went out, come back in, he said, look, we're not going to get out.
Can I take you back then to your account and that part of it with your partner going out through the door?
Yeah.
And let's go please to back to page 3 and look at paragraphs 13 to 15. So you've set out, just so that we can get the context, in paragraph 12 you've set out the detail of that call.
As I say, a little bit this is jumbled up from when I've done it.
Well, hopefully I can help you to unjumble it.
Yeah.
But you know, it is important that we get your answers and your narrative. So you know, feel free to stop me and tell me what the sequence of events were, because what we see first of all is that having made that call in paragraph 13, you start talking about, you speak about receiving phone calls from friends on the ground.
Yeah.
And one of my questions is this: if you look at paragraph 13, you say at 1:40 I received a phone call from my friend. And my question is directed to also to other parts of your statement. You're able to give very precise times for calls that you received. Is that because you've been able to take it from your phone records?
Yeah, so weirdly enough, someone a few days after the fire said, take screenshot of all the calls you made. I don't know why, I can't even remember who said it to me. And that's been how I've been able to piece together what I did and how I did it.
And you speak of one particular friend, and
Yeah.
you refer to sensing the nervousness in his voice.
Yeah.
What information were you getting from friends outside at the time?
So at that particular time, when I spoke to him, we'd already attempted to leave. So I knew obviously something's gone on, and I've obviously called back the fire brigade.
So is this a jumble?
Yeah, this is what I'm saying. It's all a bit back to front. Sorry.
Let's park that bit of the jumble there.
Yeah.
And do it this way. We try and get the sequence right. So
Yeah.
we've had your second call.
Yeah.
And your partner, who you talk.
Yeah.
It's at the tail end of paragraph 13.
Yeah.
So, and is that what you're referring to? Your first attempt to try and leave?
Yes.
Right. So, what you say is that he opens the front door, shuts it quickly, and says, "We can't."
Yeah.
So, at that time, and I'm going to come on to the blue flame, but at that time, what did he tell you about what he saw?
He didn't. He just said, we're not going to get out of here. And I could see by his reaction, his face, that, I trusted him. That there's something seriously wrong out there. I didn't know until later why he said that. So then, before I received the call from Jim, the next paragraph, the 14 bit, comes before the Jim call. But
So-
yeah, it's just a bit back to front. Sorry.
Did you go to the front door with Anthony at all?
I was behind him, so I'm there with my daughter. Yeah, so like so he would be at the front. He would have gone out the front door. So he's gone to check that everything's okay. Let's go. But I'm in the hallway, probably around near my bedroom area. He's gone out. I can see it. The smoke comes in a little bit, not a lot, but it's dark out there now. The lights are no longer on.
Just break down your answer a little bit.
Yeah.
So, from you're standing behind Anthony. From your position, could you see the conditions in the lobby at that time at all?
I could see it was dark. That was about as much as I could see. There's no longer no light out there.
And you refer to smoke coming in.
Was
that the first smoke that got into your flat?
Quite a quick. He's gone out, come back in, very very quickly.
Did he actually step out into the lobby?
Yeah. Well, yeah, kind of half step. Yeah.
So, can we put it this way? That he sort of opens the door, half steps out in the lobby, and then steps back in.
Yeah.
And gives you his
And
view.
I can see from his reaction to whatever's gone on out there, he doesn't deem it safe, and I take his judgment, or took his judgment.
And how much smoke came in at that point?
Not a lot. Not.
Do you remember what that smoke looked like?
Not really. No.
And after the door was shut, did any more smoke come in?
No, not at that point. No.
Now, before we leave paragraph 13, one thing you do mention is that your partner later told you that he saw a blue flame on the landing when he opened the door. Did he tell you anything else about that blue flame?
No, he just said, because afterwards he had like a burn mark on his arm, and I was like, oh, where did that come from? And that's when he mentioned the blue flame. I think I can't tell you where he saw it. Yeah.
Paragraph 14, the bath.
Yeah.
You say that and again, I think it's important we get the sequence.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
You've tried to go out, you've shut the door. Was it then that you started the bath running?
Yeah, so I literally, as it says there, I'm not going to repeat it, but I walk into the bathroom, plug the bath. Anthony just like, what the hell are you doing? And then I replied in those, I'm not going to repeat it, but that's what I said.
You expressed a strong view.
Yeah. And then it was a case of, then the phone call started to come through, and then I've called back, and now I'm at this point where I can't see that we're going to get out. So
And we know from your account, from reading your statement, that your partner Anthony used the water from the bath later on. But did you just keep the taps running then?
So I left it running. It overflowed as it naturally would once it gets to a certain point. And then at some point, Anthony went in and switched them off.
Thank you. If we look down at paragraph 15 now, this is now your third 999 call, and the time, and it's right from the transcript as well, is 1:43, and you tell the control room operator there's smoke coming into your house, and you use the word house. Where was this smoke coming from at that time?
So I think it's possible from where window may have been opened. It was when I think a lot of that early conversation is more to say, look, just hurry up and come and get me. You say stuff to prompt people to do stuff, and I think that might be where, when I think about the levels of smoke that was in my house at that point, it was it wasn't it didn't have a major effect. So if I did say that, and again I'm a bit blurry on that one, but I probably just more to say, look, you need to come and get us. You say whatever you can to make people react, and I think that might be more about me trying to get them to react a bit quicker than anything else.
But the fact that you needed to say things like that, how does that reflect your understanding of how the situation was developing?
Oh, I knew now it's real serious. I know that we can't get out. I can see what's going on down. So I had a very good view of everything that's going on out in the front. We were in the front room at this point. I can see that the police are kicking in the doors on Grenfell Walk, telling people to get out. I can see firefighters on Grenfell Walk shooting water up. I can see the cherry picker at the front of the building. He's looking at me, I'm looking at him, but nothing's happening and no one's coming. So I know it's at this point that it's exceptionally serious. I can also tell, that the calls are coming in and people are saying, this is what's going on. And I think for me at that point, it was more around, where is it now? Where's the fire now? Because I know it's serious, but I'm trying to say to whoever I was talking to on the phone, hurry up, basically, in the nicest possible way.
And you mentioned the calls coming in, and the one call that you specifically cite in your statement is the call from your friend Jimmy.
Yeah.
And just so we can clear about the chronology, did Jimmy call you before or after this third call at 1:43?
Before. Right. That's literally to my phone records. So you can see it. I think you've got my phone records, but that is how it went. He spoke to me. So I've called the fire brigade a couple of times, spoken to Tanisha. He then calls me, and I can hear it in his voice, but all I'm saying to him is, where is it? Tell me where the fire is. He's telling it's not on your side. And that's what he kept saying to me. And every time because he was probably the only person, I spoke to many people that night, but he was probably him and another friend of mine who actually used to live in the block were the only two people that night I was listening to, tell me where it is now, tell me where it is now. And they were telling me, look, it's not, you're okay for the moment, whatever the case may be.
The advice that you're given, and this call is an example, is to block up the bottom of the door. And in fact, you say, we've already done that.
Yeah.
And had you by then blocked up the front door?
Yeah.
And obviously, you've told us that you and your family have already made one attempt to leave, and now you've blocked up the front door. How effective was the blocking?
Yeah, relatively effective, I suppose. For me, the smoke only really got in later on in the evening or the night or the morning, whatever.
What you also say in the call, and I hope you'll take it from me, but I'll show you the transcript if you want.
Yeah.
What you say is that the stairs will be completely full of smoke by now.
So,
was there anything that you based that piece of information on?
I assume it would have been an assumption for me because at that point I know the fire's on the lower ground. I've told them it's on the lower ground because I can see it's coming from the lower. I've also been told by those that I'm speaking to on the ground that it's spreading up. I think at some point during the night was put on the phone to a police officer, but no one could actually say what's going on the stairs. Now, my thought process in all of this was, I'm high up, fire's low down, the fire, I'd be leaving and going into the fire which started at the bottom. So my natural reaction was, if someone could let me know what was going on in the stairs, I think, because it was at that point still felt relatively safe.
The next 999 call you make is at 2:02, and I do want to show you the transcript of that. So can we have, please, LFB 50338, and just let's take page 1, please. Wanted to show you page 1 just so that you can see the time of the call for yourself. So with that introduction, can we go page 2? And I just want to highlight for you, Miss Elcock, there's an answer from the control room operator which begins on the 11th floor. So you've given your flat number, and you're asked what floor are you on. You say, yeah, I think on the 11th, and then can you see it's in the, if we could expand that, it's in the middle. And what the operator says is that we're passing all the messages over to the crews on the scene, and they're going along and they're getting the people out of the flats, okay? I know it's really scary. What, if anything, did you take from that piece of information?
That they knew where we were and that they were coming, that they were sending people to all the flats that they were aware people were in.
In the same call, and we're now at 2 o'clock in the morning, in the same call, and it's on the next page. What you say, do you see that the second caller down, you begin by saying the smoke alarm hasn't gone off, and then you refer to when we had opened the door before because we thought the fire brigade was out there. So first question is, smoke alarm hasn't gone off in your flat yet?
Yeah.
You see that? So at that time, and we're 2 o'clock in the morning, what were conditions like in your flat?
Still relatively clear, not like it wasn't. Yeah, it was quite damp because, as I say, there was obviously the water that came from the bath. There was also the added water that had been shooting through from the fire brigade, so the front room was absolutely drenched. So any smoke that was coming kind of died down pretty quick. I think there's a bit here that suggests that potentially this might have been the second attempt where we may have tried to go again, because I know we did try again, but I can't be certain of that.
But are you certain in your mind, trying to piece it together, that firstly that there was a second attempt where you tried to go again?
Yeah, there was definitely more than one. There was definitely more than the first one. The second, this would make sense now because the smoke only came in when the door was opened at that point, and I think it'd come in, but it hadn't set the fire alarm off because it literally came in and kind of, it obviously is quite a quick reaction to opening and shutting the door, because I think we thought the fire brigade, I mean, it kind of makes sense now, the fire brigade were outside, so we opened to kind of go, obviously realising they weren't, and shut back the door, and then whatever was on the floor kind of just made the kind of smoke disperse at that point. So it was still relatively clear.
So what was it that you heard that made you think the fire brigade were outside your flat?
I'm thinking back now, and I can't be 100% certain. It's probably that Anthony may have said to me that they're outside. I think, and I could only assume that, you know, he was taking the lead in terms of us leaving. So if he would have been at the door and might have said that they were there, let's go, and they weren't. So that's kind of probably where that comes from.
And did you, at that point, do you remember going to the door yourself?
I would have always been behind him. I was behind him until the moment we left.
And do you remember what the conditions were like in the
hallway?
communal area at that time? Not in your hallway, but on the landing.
I didn't go that far. I wouldn't. He was always in front.
And you say that when you opened the door, some smoke came in.
Yeah.
But can you describe that smoke at all?
It was thick black smoke. It was, but again, it was so quick, the door shutting back, that it wasn't a kind of, I don't know what you call it. It wasn't a plume of smoke came gushing in. It would have been a kind of open, quick shut back.
But can you remember what colour it was? Or?
It was black at that point, yeah.
And although I think you said not very much came in, did it have any physical effect on you or Anthony or your daughter?
Can't even, I don't know. I don't know.
Could I take you just to page 4 of this transcript, please? Just if you look at your answer at the very top, you're told that they are aware, and that's about passing information on. But you say, OK, I think it's just spreading above my flat. That's the only problem now. Can you remember now what you were referring to about what was spreading above your flat?
That would have been about the fire, because I'm getting calls to say it is spreading. So it's obviously going up, I assume. I haven't seen it, but I'm getting calls to say it is going up the building.
So, and that was your information, the calls coming in from outside rather than something you could see from your flat window?
Yeah.
Okay. Can I have now, please, on the screen, LFB 50343, and page 1 of that document, please. If you look at the top, this is another 999 call, the next one in the sequence. So we've got the time there as 2:13, and at the end we have the words Essex, and we know from other information that call was put through to Essex Fire and Rescue Service. Were you aware that at the time that your call was being routed to a fire and rescue service other than the LFB?
I didn't know it had gone to Essex. I'm pretty certain one of them went to Glasgow. But yeah, okay.
If we go to the next page, that might help you just with that.
Oh yeah, Glasgow.
Again, I don't. This is based, on other evidence, but just to help you, Miss Elcock. Glasgow would have been one of the areas where the BT call operators would have. So your call would have gone to a BT operator in Glasgow, who would then have connected it to Essex.
Right.
So
okay. Well, there you are. Yeah.
But you had a memory of Glasgow in your mind, right?
Yeah, and that was exactly what they said, because there's delays in London. Yeah.
Well, did it surprise you to be speaking to someone in Glasgow?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And what did you think at that time about that?
I kind of got why. So I suppose, them saying to me, but Glasgow connected because of the delays in London, I get the reason why, because obviously we're in a point where a major incident's happening, so I can only assume that, they're taking lots of calls. So yeah, I think I was a bit set back by it, but for me, it was more after the afterthought, after I got out. I was like, why the hell was I put through to Glasgow? But obviously it makes sense as to why.
If you go to the next page, on this page, you're asked your name, and you give your name, and then what you say is it looks like it's spreading quite rapidly. That's why I'm just getting a bit concerned now. And again, what was this information based on?
Again, a lot of that would have been, and I suppose to a degree I need to see kind of the bit in my statement that then correlates with this conversation, but...
I can take you to that if you want.
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind. So that I can just work out.
Yeah, let's go to page 4 of your statement, please, your first statement, so IWS 310. And if we expand paragraph 17 and 18 for Ms. Elcock. So it's paragraph 17, if you want to remind yourself, it's the paragraph that you deal with this call. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, yeah. Okay. Still doesn't really clear up. Again, I'd probably need to see my calls as to who I spoke to. It's more...
Can I try and put it this way?
Yeah.
I mean, you've got two sources of information.
Yes.
You've got what you're able to see from your lounge window, haven't you?
Yeah.
And then you've got the information that friends are
on the floor
that are calling you on the phone.
Mm-hmm. And
the bit I showed you is about you're talking about something spreading rapidly. And I suppose my question really goes to it's 2:13 in the morning in your flat. What was your primary source of information?
a lot of it at that stage would have been what I was being told by people from downstairs. I think one of the questions I kept asking, no matter who I spoke to that night, was, where is it now? Just tell me where it is now. And that's how I probably knew that it was above. Obviously, on the next paragraph, we come to why I know it was beside, but my primary thought was, where is it now? Where is it now? Just tell me where it is. And just kind of getting the reassurance from those on the ground, really.
Could we keep that page, if I don't know whether we can do this, Ralph, but if we could have next to it LFB 50360 005, please. So just to set the context for you, Ms. Elcock, we've got on one side paragraph 18 in particular, where you deal with this call, and on the left-hand side is the actual transcript itself. And the reason I wanted that page is because I just wanted to ask you questions about that particular part of the transcript. Because what you're saying now, and this is now at 2:32. First of all, you described flames at a window.
Yeah.
Can you remember which window you could see flames at?
So at this time now, where are we? Oh, God. I'm assuming we are now in the bedroom. Yeah, we are probably in the bedroom. It would have been from the bedroom window. So
and is that your bedroom?
Yeah, it would have been, yeah.
What you say, if you look at the tail end of paragraph 18, you say, I asked Anthony if there were flames coming into the flat, and he told me he thought that the fire had spread to the flat next door.
Okay, yeah. And
you continue, flames were starting to enter the kitchen through the window. Anthony was putting them out with water from the bath. And what you actually say to the operator on page 5 is, you're asked, is there flames coming? And then can you see you speak to Anthony and you say, don't freak out, I need to keep calm, it's in the flat next door. And just above that you say, it's actually coming into my house now. So putting all those together.
Yeah, so that's Anthony telling me that he's putting... So I'm in the bedroom now with my daughter. He keeps coming out of the bedroom, checking what's going on around the flat. He then goes into the kitchen, puts out... So it's the little window in the kitchen. He puts out a fire there. And then that's when he tells me that he felt the wall, which adjoins flat 81. And he then, he knew that it was next door. So that's kind of, how that all mixes up, really.
So Anthony's dealing with a fire coming through the kitchen window.
Yeah.
And does he successfully get rid of that?
Yeah.
You've then got heat on the wall between your flat and flat 81, and then you've got flames at the window of your bedroom.
No. So I've got that muddled up. The flames at the window a bit later on in the bedroom, but now it kind of makes sense. So me and him having that conversation, and me having a conversation with her, is saying that he's telling me that the kitchen is on fire. He's just put it out, but next door is. So the flames from next door are obviously coming round and have caught on the window, but he put that fire out.
And was that the first time that you were aware of sort of flames being that close to your flat?
Yeah.
If we just on LFB 360 just go a couple of pages back to page 3. And just can we just expand the bottom half of that page? If you look at the top bit of the expanded bit, Miss Elcock, you're asked by the operator, at the moment, would it be safer for you to leave on your own or not? And you say, no, I can't see past. Operator then says, you can't see outside. You say, yeah, I can't. I don't even know what I'm doing. And then you say that there isn't smoke coming into your flat. But obviously, the question that the operator asks you is whether you could leave. And my question is, what was it that you couldn't see past?
The smoke, the darkness. I mean, whatever was going on outside, really. I think out in the lobby. Again, a lot of these calls, or a lot of what I said in these calls, is kind of more of about a reaction of not really knowing what was going on. But yeah, I mean, as I say, we've attempted, and it was pitch black. So I assume that's kind of where I'm going with that.
I mean, I know it's a difficult question to answer, but if you put yourself back, you've made, with Anthony and your daughter, 2 attempts to leave the flat. You've told us how far the distance was from your front door to the stairwell. And so my question is about putting yourself back to that time, and we're now talking about 2:32 in the morning that you're making this call. What was your sense of what conditions were like in the lobby?
That there was for me at that point, as I say, a lot of my judgment was around what Anthony was doing, or his reaction to what was going on outside. You know, I trusted that his judgment was that we weren't getting out. I had for me, dealing with that kind of level of smoke or fire, whatever the case may be, is not something that we can deal with. I wanted, I was scared. I wanted the fire brigade to come. That's their role in this matter, really, and I think that's why we didn't go. I had a big fear about the stairs, about what was going on the stairs. Had I known what I know now, I probably would have left a lot earlier, but no one could actually tell me there was nothing going on the stairs. No one, and that was people that got to the command unit, all sorts. No one could tell me what was going on the stairs. So, I think it was more about the fear of not knowing what was going on outside.
Can I come back to that point about what was going on the stairs a little later, if I may? If I don't, just remind me.
I will.
But I just want, before we leave paragraph 18, just to draw your attention to the last sentence of it, because you say, I could see the fire brigade outside the window, and I was shouting for help. Where were the firefighters that you were shouting to?
So they were literally, there was, the cherry picker was on the east side, opposite the sports centre. There was another one down by the sports centre. There were firefighters on the roof of Grenfell Walk. Yeah, they were kind of spread around. You could see, down on the ground, really.
And you're shouting. Did you get any response?
No.
Okay, let's go back to page 4 of your statement, please. And just look at paragraphs 19 and 20 at the bottom. We're moving through your 999 calls, but again, if you want to see the transcript, just let me know. But I think we can deal with this using the summary that you've provided, because if we look at paragraph 19, this is the next call in the sequence of calls, which you've given the time at 2:37, which tallies. But what you've told the operator that you speak to is the fire was on our landing, and in the transcript you use the word it's flames, but so you told us a few moments ago about your sense of what was going on earlier. What was it now that made you believe that the fire was on the landing?
Because of flat 81. So flat 81's my landing, so I now know the fire's on the landing. It's in one of the flats on the landing.
You say you told them I hadn't been outside, but Anthony had. And you told us a little earlier that Anthony and yourself, you'd made those 2 attempts.
Yeah.
So had Anthony made a 3rd attempt to try and investigate?
No, I think this was, I'm talking about the second attempt, where he's gone out and shut at the door.
And what you also mention is the spraying water against the wall of the flat and water coming through. Again, just so that we can be clear, is that water coming through the vents in the windows themselves?
Yeah.
Now, when you started off, as you've told us, you were in the front room. And in due course, I know there's no dispute over this, but you then move into the hallway of your flat. Was it the water coming through that pushed you away from the front room?
Yes.
And if we look at, if we can have paragraph 20, please, which continues over to the next page. Thank you. You're now on your 8th call. It's 2:44. And what you explain here is that you've ended up in the bedroom closest to the front door. So am I right? That's your bedroom, isn't it?
Yeah.
But in this call, what you say is that the front door keeps popping and it's hot.
Yeah.
So just help us with this, please, Miss Elcock. What did you mean by popping?
So it was like it was buckling. So it's quite difficult to. I suppose what I mean by popping is something's pushing against it to make it kind of buckle or pop, or it's quite.
And whereabouts on the door was that happening?
That would in the middle, yeah. But by the time I remember when we went to the door, it pushed itself back, that it wasn't actually locked in anymore, if that makes sense. It wasn't. So it was ultimately it was jammed, but still in. It's difficult to explain. So the middle was kind of buckled out, but the actual out bit of it is still locked in, if that makes sense.
So the door was still sat in its frame?
Yeah, but the middle bit's kind of come out. Yeah, I don't know how to explain it.
Well,
but yeah.
The words you used a moment ago, is that it was as if someone was pushing.
Yes,
against
if you're
it.
pushing in the middle bit.
And just give us a sense of the size of the bulge. I mean, is it? I mean, is it comparable to a fist being pushed against?
No, it's quite a big bit. So you can. The frame, the actual square bit of the frame was still in the outer frame, but the middle bit is being pushed in.
So did it as if the door was
Like it's
bulging
curving,
inwards
yeah,
into?
that's it, yeah,
so the
bulging,
door was
yeah.
bulging inwards into
Yeah.
your hallway.
Absolutely, yeah.
And was that visible to you?
Yeah, you could see it coming in, and that's the kind of pop-in thing. You could see it, like the pressure was pushing it back.
So
Can I ask, was it making any sound? Because when I read your statement referring to popping, I had an impression that there was some sound.
I couldn't. I think I meant bulging, but popping, bulging, the kind of same thing for me. But I can't say whether there was sound. I can't really remember, to be honest.
Right, thank you.
You're welcome.
were you aware of any sounds coming from the communal area at all?
No, I remember seeing the door bulging in. I don't recall going as close. I think at one point I did go close to the door enough to see kind of, or yeah, I mean it's all a bit of a blur and it kind of gets muddled up, but yeah, I don't really recall much going on. Like I don't remember hearing anything outside. No.
I mean, the other thing you say about the door is that it's hot.
Yeah,
So,
hot to touch.
Hot to the touch.
Yeah.
So which part of it did you touch?
The middle of it.
So you actually put your hand up against the door itself?
Yeah, so at some point I've gone close enough to the door to, but I can't remember in kind of timescales what point that was.
What you also describe in this call is smoke coming into the house again.
Right, okay.
And I can show you it on the transcript if that will help, but if you can help us without that first. Can you remember where at that point smoke was coming into your house?
I probably think at this point it's coming through the kitchen window because oh god, I've lost myself a little bit.
Let me help.
It's easier probably just to show me the transcript
let me
because then
take
that way
you to
I
that.
kind of work it out from there.
Let's take a look at LFB 50377, page 1, please. So so that we've got the time again. So 2:44, that's the call we're talking about. Go to page 3. So just to give you context, Miss Elcock, on page 2 is where you mentioned that the door is popping and it's hot. And if you look at the top there, the operator says that means there's probably a fire on the other side. You need to stay away from it. The operator then asks, where are you at the moment? You say, I'm in the hallway because they're spraying the outside of the building. It's coming through the window. And operator says they're spraying it. Okay, what side of the room, flat, would be safe for you to be in? Is there a room that hasn't got smoke in it? And the operator then asks you again, is there a room that hasn't got smoke in it? And you say, there's smoke right outside my windows coming in my house, please. And you then say, you're asked, have you shut your window? And you say, yeah. So first question then is, can you remember you're in the hallway?
Yeah.
So
this is all now happening around the kitchen front room.
So
all the smoke's coming from there. Yeah, everything's coming from that side because we haven't moved into. The reason we're in the hallway is because of the pressure from the hose. So that's the reason we're in when I've made that call. Because it was so powerful that it would knock you out, like it's come through at such a force, it pushed open the vent and the window. So we've moved into the hallway because now the smoke is all the way around the kitchen stroke front of the house.
And you were asked, have you shut the windows? And you say yes. I mean, do you remember having the windows of the front room and the kitchen?
They were all closed,
right.
other than that vent bit.
So does that help you to tell us how the smoke was getting in?
Because I think by now the kitchen window had popped, so it was coming in. So the little kitchen window,
Yeah.
it's now got no glass in it, because that's the one where the fire got in, and the one that Anthony put out. So I think that's where the smoke was coming in from.
And what about in the front room? How was smoke getting in there?
I'm actually not sure. I think when I say to you that there's a possibility that it could have been the vent the first time, I'm not going to say to you that it 100% pushed the window open, but it could have pushed the window open. I'm not sure.
If I just take you so that we can just try and sort of the chronology going. If you go to page 5 in this call, what you say, and it's in the middle, I'll just read it out to you. You say, please tell them to hurry now. Please, please, I've got a daughter. I'm going into the back bedroom, which is near the front door. Mm-hmm. And the operator confirms that. So and then the operator says, you think there's a fire outside the front door? You say, yes, it looks like the front door's hot. Please, the window's getting hot, everything. And the operator says, I'm going to tell them exactly where you are. Mm-hmm. So which window was getting hot?
Again, I think that's probably the key. I can't tell you which one I'm talking about at that point, because we've left the front room. So yeah, again, it could be just a reaction kind of thing, saying, look, hurry up.
What you've also sorry, I'll leave that. I'll come back to it. If I, Mr. Chairman, I'm just going to go on to another call, but I think I've been going for 50 minutes, and I think I see Miss Elcock nodding that I've been going for 50 minutes.
Tiring,
so she can do
Sorry
the break.
Would you like a break now?
Yes, please, if that's okay.
Well, of course, we shall have a break then. 10 minutes till 12:20.
Yeah.
Please don't talk to anyone about your evidence, and off you go with the usher.
Thank you.
Thank you. Just for my benefit, Mr. Rabbit, how are we getting on?
Well, we might go over lunch, I think, but I'm going to try and cut it down a little bit if I can.
Okay, well, that's helpful. Thank you very much. 12:20, please. Right, would you like to ask the witness to come back, please? Thank you. All right, happy
Yes,
to carry
thank you.
on. All right, thank you very much. Yes, Mr. Rowett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Elcock, thank you for coming back.
Thank you.
Could we please have your statement now, and IWS 310, page 5, please? Can we have paragraphs 22 to 24? Moving forward in time now, Ms. Elcock, it's 3 o'clock, and you make another call to the emergency services. And you, again, tell me if you want to go back and look at the transcript, but you've summarised that call in paragraph 22. And what you say is that you say the fire was outside my front door and there was smoke in the flat. What you said actually to the call operator was that there was smoke everywhere. There's smoke in my house everywhere. So we've moved about 16 minutes forward in time from the last call. How had the smoke conditions changed in your flat in that time?
So I think at this point we are in the bedroom, and if I'm right in believing, on the previous call I was told to get some air, so we was opening the bedroom window, and that's probably how the smoke came in that kind of area that I was in, yeah.
Do you still have a recollection of smoke coming in through the kitchen?
No, because I think all the doors were shut, so like everything was shut, and only opened as and when we kind of went through that way. It's possible that the smoke was in the hallway due to it coming from wherever, but I know that there was points when we were in the bedroom and I'm pretty certain was told to open and get some air from the bedroom window, and that's what was letting in a lot of the smoke that was now outside. And we were opening the window to call out to let them know that we were there.
And at that time, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. Was the level of smoke in your property such that you couldn't see through it, or? No,
it was definitely grey, but it wasn't. You could still see. Yeah, you could still see. It was smoky, really like smoky, but it wasn't. I couldn't see where I was going, or it didn't like obstruct what was going on. Yeah.
And were the lights in your flat still working?
So this is. I think so. Yeah. I mean, I know that. Yeah, and I say at the end that just before we get out, the TV switches itself off. But I think, yeah, the electric was still working. But I don't recall having the lights on, if that makes sense. So they could have been on, but I can't remember.
Your daughter's in the bedroom, isn't she? Did you spend most of your time in the bedroom?
Yes.
And was it Anthony who was really moving around the flat?
Yes.
The smoke that there was in the flat, did it have any physical effect on you?
A lot of the time, especially while I was in the bedroom, I was laying on the floor with my daughter, just trying to keep her calm, really. It probably did, but it wasn't something that I can say to you here and now that I remember. I would have coughed, but not fitting cough or anything like that, so.
What the operator tells you, and you say, she asked if I could get out because they were advising everyone to leave their flats. And then you set out the advice that you were given. Mm-hmm. And then you say, Anthony opened the door and said we couldn't get out, but I told him that the call handler had told me we had to try. And we see the redaction, it's a reference to your daughter's name, but you told her to put something over her head and approach the door. The call handler wished me luck. So just set out for us the preparations that you were making, you and Anthony, to leave at this point.
I assume the towels that we would have had Yeah, following that instruction, really, I suppose, to put something over our heads, cover our faces. At this point, like, everything was being used. Clothes, towels, bed sheets, everything. So it would have been a case of grabbing something to cover ourselves with.
And do you remember going to the bathroom and soaking anything? Or?
I recall Anthony doing that. I recall Anthony going into the bathroom and basically handing me something.
And again, you refer to Anthony opening the door. So what was the sequence of the three of you sort of getting to the door? He
would have, like, I don't know, again, this is an assumption, but I'm saying to him, look, this is what we've been told to do. He's gone to do that. We've got I think at this point we've already got towels around us. Like, I think, like, we were using so much. As I say, everything was being used in the flat, and I think he's gone to the door. And again, you know, it was more his judgment. I think by now we're so scared, all of us, that I don't know. I think I'm just relaying what's being said on the 999, to be fair, to him, and he's tried, and that's when he opens the door, and that big wave, and that point now a huge amount of smoke comes in, and as I put in the next part, that's when the smoke alarms went off.
And was that the first time a smoke alarm went off? And do you remember one smoke alarm going off or both?
I'm not sure which one it was, but one of them. It wasn't loud, like, it wasn't like a loud sound, but it definitely did go off. It started to be.
You said a few moments ago when the door was open, a huge amount of smoke came in.
So at this point, like, the largest amounts coming.
Describe for us the smoke that came into the flat at that point.
Yeah, just completely black smoke now, thick black smoke.
And were you in the hallway when Anthony opened the door?
I would have been back by the because I think at this point the door, I knew the door was hot. We weren't sure if there was fire outside the door. And I think obviously I stood back. I suppose I let him open the door. And that's when that kind of massive wave of smoke came in. And it was just back shutting the door. Like, he was scared, I was scared.
And did that smoke have any physical effect on the two of you?
I couldn't tell you. I don't know. I probably coughed. I mean, if that kind of it comes in at, you would naturally cough. But I don't think there was no like difficulty to breathe or anything like that.
Did you? I mean, you described a very brief opening of the door at this point, but did you get a sense of what conditions were like on the lobby?
It hadn't changed. It was still black. You couldn't, when you open the door, you can only see a wall anyway. If the lights are not on, the lights are on, you only see a wall. You don't see, unless you step out, that's when you see the whole landing. But at that point, just the head was just as black as this microphone is. So, yeah.
And what about the lighting in that area? There
was no lighting. It was completely dark. It was pitch black. I've never in 20 years seen it. Even when we might have had a power cut or something, it doesn't go that dark because the emergency lighting would naturally come on back in the day. But it was pitch black. There was no.
Did you know if there was emergency lighting on the communal area at that time?
Again, it's not something I think years before, like when we might have had a power cut, you open the door to see if the lights have gone off in the you naturally kind of see, well, if everyone else has got the same issue as you. I think there might have been an emergency lighting back in the day, but that night there certainly weren't no lights in that landing.
If we look at paragraph 24, it's 3 minutes go by and you you're connected again to the fire service and you say you told them it wasn't possible to leave my flat because it was too hot on the landing. So just so that we're clear, was that following that what you've just described us, sort of that brief opening of the door and closing it, and then you dialed 999 again?
Yeah.
And you say it's too hot on the landing. So tell us, what sense did you have of the temperature on the landing?
You could feel it. You could feel that when the kind of door opened, the heat was quite intense. Like it was hot. I mean, it was fire hot. It wasn't. There's nothing else to describe it but kind of fire hot, heat hot. Like yeah.
If we look back at paragraph 22, you say again you could hear the door popping and it was really hot. So you told us before we had the break that it was more of watching the door buckle. But you use the word hear, so you could actually hear something happening to the door. Can you describe what the door looked like at that time?
Again, it's bulging inwards. It's not. It's no longer flat. It's no longer straight. It's coming inwards. It's bulging inwards. I suppose buckling. And I suppose if I think why I would say I could hear the door popping is you could hear it pushing itself back. I think.
And so I mean, you could have a picture of a door that has just buckled and so distorted in shape. Or
Yeah.
was it actually changing the shape? Was
Yeah,
it
yeah.
growing?
So it's like it's expanding it kind of inwards, yeah.
And was it always expanding, or was it shrinking and expanding?
I don't know. I know it was expanding.
If we look at paragraph 24 again, this is the call swiftly made, and you're told again that the advice is to leave. Now, you've had a series of 999 calls where you've essentially been told to remain in your flat. This is now the second call, the first one at 3, where you're told you have to leave. In terms of the advice that you're being given, what was going through your mind at that time?
By now, beyond scared now. I think it's at this call, or maybe the later one, where it's, why wasn't I told hours ago to leave? Why? I mean, obviously, as you look at the kind of events of the night, as time goes on, and my levels of anxiety have gone through the roof. I'm now absolutely crapping myself that I'm going to die. So I had, for me, there was no, I think I was scared to the point of kind of being rooted to where we were, to be honest. I just didn't think I could. I just didn't have it in me to leave, to be fair. That's the bottom line of it.
If we go down to the next paragraph as well and look at 25, in paragraph 25, you're calling back again. So you've had a call that's timed at 3:03. You've now got a call timed at 3:04. In between those two calls, the 3:03 call is, if you take it from me, it lasts for 40 seconds. In between those two calls, did you try and leave again?
No, I don't think so.
And what you say in paragraph 25 about this call, which I think is now your 11th call, but what you say is that you told them it wasn't possible to leave because of the heat coming from the landing, and you asked them to send a cherry picker. Why did you ask for a cherry picker?
I think it's, so at this point, obviously I'd seen that out there very early on. I knew it was here, I knew it was there, I knew it was outside. He was looking at me, I was looking at him. I just actually thought that was the only way I was going to get out of there. No one had come at this point, no firefighters. I'd been told someone was coming, they knew, but it didn't seem like that message was getting anywhere. And I suppose I'm just now at this point where I'm basically begging for anything to happen. I'm being told by, you know, to jump. You know, all sorts of stuff was happening from downstairs, and it wasn't something I was prepared to do. But yeah, I think, you know, I'm absolutely in despair now, because I'm actually losing the will. You know, this wasn't how it was supposed to happen. This is not, you know, someone should have come by now, and I was losing faith rapidly. So I think I was asking just to do anything, really.
If you look at the last but one sentence of that paragraph, what you say about the call, and I can take you to the parts of that transcript if you need it, but you say, she also told me that there were more aerial ladders arriving whilst we were on the phone. Did you take anything from that?
I think because obviously I mentioned the cherry picker, and which obviously is the aerial ladder, but I think, you know, for me it was like saying, look, we're going to get you out. You know, at this point, I still believe they were. I think I was just really confused. I probably took it as, yeah, we're going to send someone and they're going to get you out. I think that's how I took it.
Again, if you want to see the transcript, tell me, but in the transcript, what the control room operator says is that she's going to tell them that you're stuck.
Okay.
Do you remember her telling you that?
No.
Could I go then to the next page, and let's look at paragraphs 26 and 27, please. Um, 26 deals with the next call that you made, which is 3:13. And you began by saying that I knew I'd rung a lot, but would they please send someone to come and get us? I told them I couldn't leave because there was fire outside the front door. You've told us about what you'd seen when you tried to open the front door. Was there had you picked up on anything else about what was going on the landing by this time?
No.
You're asked also whether you can go down the stairs, or whether and one of the things you say in the call is that you can't go down the stairs. How far had you or Anthony been able to get from your flat?
No, we didn't attempt to go down the stairs again, because in my head there was fire on the stairs. So yeah, and I don't think anyone could tell me otherwise.
You said in your head there was fire down the stairs, so just help us with it.
So as I said earlier, the fire was low. I knew from the off the fire was low. I obviously knew it was spreading. I'm on the 11th, the fire was on the 4th. Well, at that point I thought it was 5th or 6th, but either way I knew it was lower than me. There's only one way out. If the fire's below and you're above it, you're going into it, and that was my thought process, that there was fire on the stairs.
If you look at the last part of paragraph 26, the operator says, she asked where we were, and I told her in the bedroom. She asked if we could open a window for fresh air. Mm-hmm. I told her the fire was outside the window. So is that a reference to the bedroom
There was
window?
now fire on the cladding on the outside, yeah.
And that's if you. I mean, your daughter's bedroom would have been next to yours anyway, but the two bedrooms face in the same direction. Yeah. But was it the window of your bedroom that you recall seeing?
Yeah. So there's like a column that goes outwards in like a triangle, and there was like sheets of the material on the side, and that had caught flames by now. But again, because the firefighters were on the walkway, they were able to extinguish it.
I want to show you one page from the transcript. Can we have LFB 50410 and page 6 of that document, please? If we look at the top part of it, the operator says they're trying to get to you, believe me, but our advice is, if you can, you're just going to have to. And then you say, in my front room, it's in my house now.
Mm-hmm.
So you're in the bedroom.
Yeah.
And you're talking about what's the it that's in your house now?
This is now Anthony relaying that because he's now in and out, putting out the fire in the other rooms. So as it was trying to get in, he was putting it out. So that's me saying to her, look, I know it's tried to get in at the front room. Again, I suppose in panic, I'm saying, look, it's here and it's in my house. Yeah, again, it's that principle of hurry up.
And so it was Anthony relaying back to you what he was seeing, what he was dealing with.
Yeah.
And in terms of what information did he tell you about what had happened to the front room?
He's just saying, I've just had to put fire out in the front room.
Did he tell you whether anything had happened to the windows at that time in the front room?
No, not really. No, he's just saying that obviously it was coming in I'm assuming, via the windows. And he was putting it out. And that's the same for the middle bedroom as well. He had to put fire out in there.
If you go to page 7 of this document, of this transcript.
Are you all right? Keep going.
Yeah, I'm fine, yeah.
I mean, if you just need a moment to
Yeah, no, I'm fine, honestly, I'm
compose
fine.
yourself, that's perfectly right.
You're told if the fire's coming in, you need to get out. And you respond in conversation, I know, all right, I'm going to try it. Did you try and leave again?
I'm not sure. I'm really not sure. We may have done. But I don't think so, if I'm really honest.
If we go back to the same part of your statement, please, in paragraph, so page 6 of IWS 310 and paragraph 27. And this is now another call that you've made. In fact, it's the 13th call you make that night where you're connected to 999. And again, if you need to see the transcript, Ms. Elcock, just tell me. Mm-hmm. Yeah? But I hope you can take all of this from me. But in the call, you confirm that you're in the room furthest away from the fire.
Yep.
And would that have been your bedroom?
Mm-hmm.
You also say that the house is full of smoke,
Mm-hmm.
that fire's coming into the bedroom and the front room,
Mm-hmm.
and that it's baking hot.
Mm-hmm.
And you then say it's in your daughter's bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
So just against that background, can you help us with what was the progress of the fire in relation to your flat at that time?
The progress of the fire?
Yeah, in terms of what was happening, in terms of fire getting into your flat at that time, what were you seeing?
It was just kept coming. So at this point, we're in the bedroom. I'm laying low. You can see the stuff flying out of the tower. I'm still taking calls from people on the ground, so I now know it's really spreading. It's in the panelling adjacent to the window. And then I know that it's gone into the next bedroom, my children's bedroom, because Anthony's just put the fire out in there. As I said, he was doing a lot of the moving around, so he was able to relay what was going on around. But when I suppose the fire was, what I could visibly see was it falling from, you could see the cladding falling from the building, passing the window. You could see it catching on the cladding next to the window.
And in terms of the temperature in your flat at that time, what was it like?
It was starting to get warm now, that like mixture of when we were in this bedroom, this is the one that we kept opening the window to A, get some air in, and B, call for help. So that's now the smoke was kind of going around the whole building at this point, and that's how it was coming back in. So now it was getting smokier in the room, and it actually gets to a point where we have to leave that room because it is too smoky, but it's starting to get quite warm as well.
And was the smoke having any physical effect on you or your daughter?
again, I was on the floor most of the time being in that room. I had to, just try and stay calm for my daughter. But so I spent a lot of the time, I put a duvet down and we just laid on the floor, and I was just kind of telling her that everything was going to be all right.
Both if we read this paragraph of your statement where you deal with this call and
Mm-hmm.
read the transcript itself, the advice that you're given is you have to leave.
Mm-hmm.
And you say you can't do it. So what were your concerns about making another attempt to go out through your front door?
My thought process hasn't changed. I am now, by this point, I suppose, resigning myself to the fact that I'm going to die. But I had to beg them to come and get me.
Can I?
Should we just take a quiet moment, I think?
Yeah.
I'm all right. I just,
Yeah?
yeah. For me, at this point, it didn't go the way it was supposed to go. They were supposed to be there by now. No matter how many times I called them, I just felt by now they were just... They weren't listening. But I'd given up by now. But I knew I had to get out because of my children.
Can I just ask you, would you...
No, I'll be fine, honestly.
I know you're doing really well.
I just need this over with.
I do understand the difficulty. What I was going to ask you was, we could, if you like, stop for lunch now.
No, I really want to get it
Or would
over and
you?
done with.
Yeah,
Please.
I thought you might. All right, well, that's all right.
I'll be fine. Sorry.
No, it's nothing to apologise for.
Ms. Elcock, can I also say that I appreciate that I've asked you a lot of detailed questions, and we are very grateful for the care in which you've shown in answering the questions and the time you're taking. Hopefully I won't be very much longer with you, but can I just take you to the last call that you made? And I just want to ask you about one part of it, if I may. And it's a call that you make. Can we have, please, LFB 50429? And if I explain, this is you deal with this transcript in your supplementary statement. I won't take you to the supplementary statement because I just want to ask you about one part of it. And if I take you, it tells us the time. It's at 4:33 in the morning, so we've moved on for an hour. And it's if we go to page 5 of this document, please. If you look at the again, just to put it in context, this is a call where you're again given the advice to leave, and if we read it, what you say is about conditions outside, and you express your concern about the stairwell. What guidance were you wanting to be given about conditions outside your flat? What did you want to know?
I think it was a mixture of, I think if I'd been told there was no fire on the stairs, if someone could have told me that there was no fire on the stairs, I doubt I'd be sitting here today. I just think that because I knew, as I say, the fire was low, I was high. It was going from somewhere where I felt relatively safe because whilst I was scared, I still had this in my head that someone was going to come, and that's what they do. And yeah, the stairs for me was probably, it's one way out. You can only get down the stairs, and if there's fire on the stairs, I'm likely going to die on the stairs, and I just didn't want to do that.
What you say in the transcript is, you say to the operator, honestly, I'm safe in my house at the minute, but I need to know if someone's coming to get me. What was it that made you feel that the conditions inside your flat were safe?
Because at this point, yes, it was, by now we've actually moved from the bedroom. We've moved into the middle bedroom. Got stuck in there because there was no handle on the door. So at some point, Anthony comes and he says, let's go into the middle bedroom. We go into the middle bedroom, shut the door, and this room was relatively clear. And I mean, really, by now the sun had pretty much risen, but you could see it was like there was no smoke in there. The window had gone, there was no longer a small window there. That had obviously broken. But it was completely kind of clear, and you could see what he was doing. So we went in there. But as I say, the handle on the door was broke. Locked the door and then realised, oh God, we're stuck. So luckily found some scissors, managed to reopen the door. And then obviously we were now, I think this call was made from in there, this is where I don't know really, to be honest. If this is my last call, I could actually be in the front room by now, because we then moved back into the front room. Because I think by now, you say it's 4:43?
4:33.
4:33. So yeah, no, I think by now I've spoken to my sister. But I've spoken to my sister, and then I think we're actually in the front room by now. But I still felt at that point that, there is no fire. Yes, there's smoke. Yes, the building's on fire, but I'm still safer in there than I am going down the stairs.
Would we just jump back one page to page 4 for a moment, please? If you look at the second bit where you say caller, there's a bit,
Yeah, that's just a reaction. Sorry, that's why I'm kind of laughing, because...
Well, let's ask you to explain your reaction if we can, because you're told at the top you need to make your way downstairs, though, and you respond, we need to make our ways downstairs.
So I'm actually being really
Oh, do you know what? There's fire on the stairs. My husband's just gone out there. Did he go out?
No, that's me basically saying... and I can't even say what I'm about to say, but it's me basically saying, are you serious? We need to make our way down the stairs, because I'm now exceptionally frustrated. And by the language that I'm using in there, that's me trying to politely say, I can't, I'm just not going to say it because otherwise I'm going to swear. But yeah, that's just me being kind of frustrated by what I'm being told, because it's not what I want to hear, and I'm responding to that. There is no kind of element of truth in that, if that makes sense. I'm just, exaggerating and getting frustrated by what I'm being told.
Can I go back then to your statement, and we're almost finished, if that helps, but just go back to page 7 of your first statement. In paragraph 30 down.
Mm-hmm.
So, and again, just to help you with the time sequence, you've given a time of 4:27 when you speak to your sister Denise. We've looked at the transcript 4:33, and now you then say you spoke to Denise again at 4:37.
Yep.
And you describe in this in this paragraph that your sister was effectively directing the firemen.
So, yeah, so she had not long come down to, when I spoke to her at 4:27, or maybe, 4:27, she'd just pretty much come down to the area, and she managed to find a fire crew on the ground and told them that I was stuck in there still. She stood with the firefighter, basically telling them I'm on the 11th floor. She stayed with him, and what I'm saying is that she kept saying she's talking to me on the phone, but standing next to him, and she can hear what's happening on the radio. So she then says to me, look, they're on their way up, and we're getting ready. So we're now in the corridor, getting ready. Anthony was by the door, and then she says to me, they're outside your door. Anthony was shouting, and then she says, no, sorry, they've gone to the wrong floor. But then she said, but they're coming for you now. And then Anthony continues to shout, and then Denise can hear Anthony on the radio. So we now know that they're outside the front door. And that's when she said, they're outside your door. And that's when I told him, he opened the door, and then we went.
And when you say when you left the front room, there was quite a lot of grey smoke. So was that any different to smoke that had been in your flat before?
No, it was worse than. So it was, as I say, I've put it there that my front room was white. So now it was grey. So there was smoke in there. It wasn't thick like you couldn't see, but there was definitely smoke in there.
Could we expand on this page? Just let's have paragraphs 30 down to the bottom of the page. By now, what was the temperature like in your flat?
It was really warm. Yeah, really warm. Not like unbearably warm, but really warm.
You've already told us what we see at paragraph 31, which is Anthony opening the front door.
Mm-hmm.
And then could you actually see any firefighters when you
No.
opened the front door? So
No.
What could you see?
Anthony went in front. He had my daughter in his arms, and I was literally holding on to him, and he just followed their instructions, and then we legged it down the stairs, really.
And was it just a voice you were hearing?
It was I was behind Anthony, so he heard the voice and we went there.
So, and did you see the torch that you referred to?
I didn't know, but he did.
You then move into stairwell, as you say, you legged it down the stairs. Were the conditions any different from the stairwell? I'm going to put this is one of the simple but not straightforward questions. You've got the conditions on the lobby,
Mm-hmm.
and then you move into the stairwell. So you're still on your floor, but were the conditions when you moved from lobby to stairwell any different?
So they were the same for about 3 floors. So obviously we went down a couple floors. We all tripped, as it says in my statement, and then as we went down another maybe 1 or 2, so by now I think we're probably on the 7th or 6th floor, all of a sudden it started to get brighter. By the time we got to the 4th floor, the lights were completely on. You could see where you were going. You could see walls. I could see hoses on the floor. I mean, don't get me wrong, we were moving real quick. But, yeah, and then when we got to around the 4th floor, I remember as we came down, there was a fire woman there, and I remember her looking up. But that was the only person other than the person higher up that I'd seen on the stairs. But all of a sudden, the lights was as bright as they are in this room.
Mr. Chairman, I've reached the end of my questions, but I don't know whether we want to take a lunchtime break or have a short 5 minutes to see if there are any questions.
Before we go any further, can I just have an indication from council? How many council need to speak to Mr. Rubbett at this stage?
For my part, I would only for 30 odd seconds just check with my solicitor, so it's that level of time.
Well, would it be satisfactory, rather than ask Miss Elcock to go out of the room, hang around, come back in again, if she and I just ignore the rest of you and allow you to speak privately?
So that's not too rude to our review that.
No, I'm inviting you to do it, and anyone else who... I'm not trying to suppress anyone who's got questions. but I think we could probably do this rather more economically than we have sometimes. All right, well, you and I can ignore what they're going to do for a bit. And, see whether there are any more questions for you.
So if I may just put a
Yeah,
few
so there
questions.
are a few more questions.
Yes.
Well, I'm sorry,
Um,
but not quite finished.
No problem.
Nearly.
And thank you again for your patience, Ms. Elcock. And I might slightly jump around a little bit, but just to pick it up with the point, your descent down the stairs. Can you remember how you describe encountering firefighters and not seeing anybody? You were behind Anthony. But as you went down, did you have a sense of what the firefighters were doing as you went down?
I didn't see them. I've only seen them in the stills that I've seen when I've obviously seen myself come out. I assume they were at the front. I know when we encountered what we encountered on the stairs that I got held. Now thinking back, I assume one must have been behind me, because as we went down the stairs and we all stumbled, I got kind of straightened up by somebody. So yeah.
Thank you. I'm going to jump back onto another topic that we were asking about before. And I want to show you a photograph. Again, nothing distressing, and it's a photograph we've shown before. Could I have BLA 404531, please? Thank you. This is a photograph that got taken during the refurbishment. So you can see the green canopy that sat over the front entrance. If you go up, you've got the scaffolding, and then can you see the windows, and above that, it looks like a sort of square grille. Do you remember that you told me some time ago about the noise that you heard from outside the tower? Does that picture help you to tell us where you heard that noise coming from?
Now, it doesn't. My assumption was the noise was coming to the left of that picture on the ground floor. That's not to say that it could have been coming from, if that's where it where the vent was, but it was definitely down. You heard it as you came in the doors. I am pretty certain it is to the left of that picture.
As we're looking at it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
If that's the entrance, again, I don't know how that picture's been taken. If that's coming in from Grenfell Road, then yeah, it's on the left.
Thank you. I also asked you, do you remember, I showed you those two photographs of floor 6 and asked you about vents.
Yeah.
And you correct me, please, if my recollection is wrong, but I think you said that the grills that I'd shown you, or the vents that I'd shown you, came after the refurbishment.
No, I didn't say they come
Right.
after refurbishment.
Then you are correcting me. So just so that we can be clear, did you notice those vents that on your floor before the refurbishment?
So those holes were there. They definitely changed something within them. I don't know what was there before.
But there was still something there, was there?
Them squares were there. I'm pretty certain they were, yeah.
Were you aware then, before the refurbishment, of a type of vent on your floor in the communal area?
I never actually knew what they were for, but I'm pretty certain them two holes were there before. Them two squares were there before. Yeah, they were there before, because the tiling was done many, many years ago in the floors, and I'm pretty certain, yeah, if they had put those vents in if they'd put those vents in during the refurbishment, then I'm sure the tiles would have changed, but I'm pretty certain that they were there before. I think they changed the grills, if I'm right in thinking, but I don't recall the actual vents changing.
You may also remember that I showed you a photograph of the pipes running on a floor above a flat too. Were you aware of pipes in the stairwell as well?
Yeah, again, because I was one of the flats that was affected by the lack of gas, I was aware of a lot of the process of what was going on with the gas situation. So I knew that they'd put it in the stairwell because National Grid actually wanted to put the pipe on the outside of the building, but because the building had been recently cladded, the council or whoever it was that makes those decisions said no, it needed to go in the stairwell. And I remember having a conversation with someone from National Grid about that.
And so before those pipes were put in that we looked at, you didn't have pipes like that outside your front door?
No, because my gas pipe was behind my kitchen. There's a cut there in between the toilet and the kitchen. There was a cupboard, and the gas pipe runs in there.
Those are all the questions I have, Mr. Chairman, bar one. Ms. Elcock, before I ask this question, can I once again thank you? I appreciate it's been a long morning, but I think we all should recognise that you've dealt with the questions I put to you with great care and with a great degree of patience as well. And so my final question to you is this: putting aside what you've put in your statement and your supplementary statement, and also the answers that you've given to me today, is there anything else about what you saw or what you heard on the night of the fire that you think it important to draw to the attention of the chairman?
In terms of what I saw that night, what I heard that night, and what I know since that night, you know, we all know that it should never have happened, and we all get to how it happened. And I guess this is about what happened that night. But I'd just like to highlight that that night was probably the most horrific night that anyone could go through. And what's happened since that night is something that no one should have to go through. Not only did I lose my home, not only did I lose neighbours and friends, that night I lost my uncle, my mum's brother. He lived 4 floors above me and he never made it out. And for that reason, it's imperative that this never happens again. No one should ever have to go through what we've had to go through. And I put my trust in you, in all of you, that we get the truth and justice that is deserved.
Yeah. Well, Mrs. Elcock, you've obviously had a terrible experience, and I'm sorry that we've had to ask you to come and talk about it in such detail. You've been very courageous dealing with all these questions, and you should know that it is really helpful to us to hear about your experience, what happened in your floor, in your flat and so on, because it's a piece of the jigsaw which we are trying to piece together. So we're very grateful.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming to tell us about it.
Thank you.
All right?
Yeah. Am I free to leave?
Right. Well, when you're ready,
Yeah.
you go with the usher and she'll look after you. Thank you very much. Right, thank you very much. We'll break there and resume at 2:10, please.